Guys, if you have a WLTOYS 144001, there's 3 basic things you can do to make this thing a whole lot better as soon as you get it out of the box. Okay, so what am I actually talking about? How can you make this thing better? Surely, you know, if you buy a ready-to-run car, it will come pretty much ready to go. Well, do you know what, guys? Actually, no. There are a few things you can actually do to this which don't actually cost any money, which will make it a whole lot better and actually make the components, for example, the diffs and all the other components inside, last you a lot longer and prevent you from having to buy spares. Okay, so there are a few things you can actually do to this to make it a little bit better from basically as it comes from the factory. There are a few things you can do, so let's take a closer look and see what I'm actually talking about. Okay, so what are we actually going to do with this thing today? We're actually going to take a look at the steering geometry. I don't know if you can see, but it is a little bit off. This thing doesn't really steer that well at the moment. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but it doesn't feel right to me, so we're going to take a look at that. Apparently I also read a blog post. I can't remember, if I do find the link I will stick it down below, but I can't remember the fella's name, but he did a really good in-depth blog post actually stating that the diffs on this don't really come fully greased. They don't really pack the grease in there, so we will be taking the diffs apart to see what the grease situation is like. And also the shocks can sometimes come with too much oil in them, so that it actually prevents them from fully compressing. So I mean, this is all news to me. I thought this thing was bulletproof out of the box. Obviously not. So we will investigate today, guys. We're going to go through all 3 of the steps. I'm probably going to stick the camera on a tripod. There will be a little bit of talking in between, but I probably will speed most of the process up just because it will be quite repetitive. And yeah, we'll see what we find, you know, see how true this information is, and see whether or not you really do need to adjust a few things. Definitely the steering, because that just doesn't feel right to me. Right guys, it got quite late last night, so I did leave things as they were. I have now started to take apart the diffs, or at the very least I've actually got the front diff out. It doesn't feel too bad when you actually turn it with with your fingers, but I am going to actually give this a quick clean, clear off the old grease that it come with, open it up and refill it with grease as well, and hopefully that should be good as gold. I'm not going to know until I've actually opened it what the grease situation is like inside, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay guys, so I have actually taken the 4 little screws out, separated the diff there. As you can see the little planet gears in there. So this doesn't look as bad as I thought it was going to look. Obviously there's not a huge amount of grease in there, but there's enough to get by. This isn't one I'm actually worried about. I'm worried about the actual the back one, if I'm honest, and it does feel like there's something binding in the back one, so I am actually a little bit concerned about that. But I mean, the front one, all I'm going to do is refill this with a bit of new grease. I'm not going to use anything special, just a little bit of automotive grease that I've got spare, and hopefully this should last a little bit better than it would if in the condition that it's actually in. It's not a huge amount of grease in there, so all we're doing is pretty much preserving the components. We don't want this thing to be running dry in a way, and it won't, because there is a little bit in there, but we can preserve this a little bit more by refilling it. So guys, all I'm using is some of this grease here. It doesn't have to be anything special, this will do the job, or at the very least this is what I use anyway, and it does the job perfectly fine on all my RCs. So yeah, don't think you have to spend an absolute fortune buying branded grease. Alright guys, onto the rear one then. So this did feel like it was binding a little bit, so I've actually taken it apart, and again, there's not a massive amount of grease in there. There's enough to get by, you know, you're not going to get in too much trouble. But when I started loosening off the screws a little bit, things did seem to feel a lot better. So I'm pretty sure the screws were just a little bit too tight in this. You know, in a model, you know, of this size, I think even small little adjustments such as like screws that are too tight, you know, are going to make a massive difference, because the parts are a lot smaller and they're not as forgiving. But what I am going to do, just like I did with the front one, I'm going to clean this off a little bit, refill it, put it back together, put it back into the buggy as well, and hopefully, you know, we'll be good to go. Okay, so as you see there, we did take the diffs apart. We have now packed them up with grease. There wasn't a huge amount of grease actually in them, so by doing what we've done, I just used some normal standard automotive grease. Marine grease is quite good as well. I don't have any of that at the moment, so you can just use what is readily available for you. So I am glad the diffs are all sorted now. I do feel more confident, especially if I decide to maybe upgrade a few more parts and fit a brushless setup in this. I do feel like the diffs will hopefully last a little bit longer than they would have before. Let's take a look at the shocks then. So apparently these actually can come overfilled. We're going to take the caps off the top. We're going to see what's going on. We're going to see whether or not they're underfilled, overfilled, and make a few adjustments there. Alright guys, so moving on to the shocks then. I'm just taking apart the front shocks here, as you can see. So I've taken the first cap off. Obviously you can see they are filled with oil, as you'd expect. I don't believe they are overfilled in my case here, and they can compress fully, but I just wanted to check, because I have brought models in the past where they come without even, you know, from factory without even having any oil in them. So it's nice to actually see that these do come you know, properly filled, or at the very least the front ones do. We'll have a look at the back ones and see. But yeah, as I say, the post that I see and the post that I read does actually mention that these do come overfilled, but I can't see an issue just yet. So I'm not saying it's false information, but my current findings, especially with the front ones, is that there's no issue at the moment. So I'll get these refitted. We'll have a look at the back and then go from there. Right guys, so I did check that one there, and that's not overfilled, and I've checked the left one as well, and that's absolutely fine as well. So in this instance, I don't think there's any issues with the shocks being overfilled. So unless this is something they actually picked up on and you know, made a few changes, I'm not 100% sure, but it's always worth checking, you know, to make sure. But yeah, in this instance I haven't had any issues, so the shocks are absolutely fine on this. So guys, that's the shocks sorted out. So guys, that's the shock sorted out. So yeah, as I said, all four of mine were absolutely fine. I didn't find there was any issues with them, to be fair. So that may be an old issue with some of the previous models. I'm not sure, but with mine in particular, no issues at all. Okay, so that's the second thing out of the way. The shocks are all sorted now. Starting to feel a lot more confident with this buggy. The next thing we're going to do is take a look at the steering. Okay, so taking a look at the steering, obviously you can see here I have centered the steering trim on the transmitter, and obviously you can see, I mean, the servo on this is quite nice. I do like the servo, but you can see there is a little bit of toe out on the steering. Now the problem with that is, you know, it's obviously you're gonna have premature sort of wear on the tyres a little bit, and obviously, you know, your steering's not going to be great. Turning corners and stuff isn't going to be great. So what I'm going to try and do is make a couple of little adjustments, see if we can get this sorted, and then hopefully go from there, guys. I mean, it's not a major issue, you know, you can live with it, but why should you live with it if you can make a few little adjustments? So yeah, let's crack on. So the way I'm actually going to do this is I'm actually going to release, well, I'm actually going to undo the little screw there in the tie rod, and I'm going to obviously loosen this one out a little bit, which will, you know, hopefully bring it back to center. and then obviously the same on the other one as well. Obviously this is you know, the right one, but if you're looking at the other direction it would be left on the car. So yeah, we're going to adjust both of the tie rods on this and hopefully get the steering a little bit centered, and then hopefully go from there and see how it is. Okay guys, so it may not be an issue for you, but the actual steering rack was binding a little bit, so I did actually take it all apart, give it all a good sort of little bit of grease, you know, a little bit of spray, just to try and ease the tension a little bit, get things moving again, free things up a little bit. I have also adjusted the tie rods, so the steering is sitting, you know, a lot better than it was before. It is sitting nice and centre now, so yeah, it's definitely something you want to look at with the steering. So guys, all three things are now sorted, so I do feel a lot more confident. Like I said, if I do decide to run a brushless system in this, I do feel more confident that it will handle that extra power now. It was nice that I actually came across that post, and like I said, I will leave a link down below so that guy gets all the credit. It was nice that I actually come across that information, because I wasn't actually sure. I've never owned one of these before, so I wasn't sure what the first things you should really look out for. So yeah, I'm definitely glad we've done it today. I'm very tempted to put the WLTOYS system out of the Team Karate Triton into this, and maybe fit a bit more of a beefier system into that. You know, obviously that is a 10th scale monster truck. This is a 1/14th scale buggy, so I definitely think, you know, fitting the WLTOYS 60 amp system in this would definitely be, you know, quite fun, especially on 3S. So it's definitely something I'm considering doing. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking at some more upgrades for this as well. It's a very fun and capable buggy, and I am very happy with it. Guys, if you do actually own one of these and you can suggest, you know, some more upgrades that I can actually do on it, I'm open to any sort of ideas or what you'd like to actually see me do with it. You know, it's not a new design, it's not a new buggy. You know, a lot of people do have these now. A lot of people have covered them on YouTube as well. You know, there's people that are getting close to 100 miles an hour out of these things, and that must be absolutely crazy. You know, that might even be an idea there. Do you want me to get 100 miles an hour out of this? You know, it's a possibility. It may be something I'm willing to do. So yeah, you know, suggest it, and you never know, I may actually do it. So immediately that does feel a hell of a lot better now. You can definitely tell there's a difference with the steering. It does feel a lot sharper than it did before. Guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave a comment, make sure you subscribe and like. I hope this information's been good, you know, good use to you. It was definitely very useful to me, and hopefully I do preserve the life of my 144001 WLTOYS. Guys, I hope you've had a good one today, and I will see you again on the next video. So take care and see you soon. Cheers, guys.